This guy writes a column in the Marina Times. He joins us on Friday. His column is about a lot of things, but he's the regular movie and music critic. When it comes to culture, there is no other than this guy. He comes and goes on a rainbow. And I knew, took the chance when I said it, that it may not happen. But Michael Snyder, everybody.
Hey,
Michael, I
wow.
apologize that your rainbow is not happening.
It's okay. It's Friday the 13th. I mean, what do you expect? I mean, do you feel lucky? Well, do you, punk? I mean, I'm of the opinion expressed by the blues legend Albert King in his immortal song, Born Under a Bad Sign. If it wasn't for bad luck, I wouldn't have no luck at all, And
I love it.
Speaking of bad luck,
bad luck.
A bomb cyclone is coming, yet another. And I fear this is going to be a brutal squall. I expect gusts galore, so grab your galoshes, especially if you're going to Levi Stadium tomorrow at 1 p.m. Big Niners game. I'm excited for my team. I'm hoping for the best.
I think we discussed a few minutes ago the fact that they shouldn't have an issue with the Seahawks, but you never know. That's why they play the games, right?
Hey, slippery ball is slippery, right? Am I right?
Yeah. And a couple of ill-timed turnovers. You're right, and you can end up on the wrong end of the outcome. That would be a heartbreak. Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, but before we get to the regular part of our show, full disclosure: I met my true love in the interactive wing of the Museum of Sex.
Oh.
That's a little fabulous.
The interactive wing? Wait, what?
That was a callback to the Museum of Sex story?
Wow. Yeah, right. The interactive wing.
Iron rod.
That's not a museum of sex, but more on that for another time. Yeah, I think you walked into the wrong house.
Yeah, maybe that was definitely a possibility. Okay, yeah, A Man Called Otto, the Tom Hanks remake of the Swedish dramedy A Man Called Ove, is one of the two movies opening wide this weekend. And since I already covered it 2 weeks ago for its Oscar consideration run in New York and LA, I feel like I should move on to the one true first run feature premiering across this great land of ours, Plane, as in airplane, but decidedly not the Leslie Nielsen comedy. I love that movie, by the way. But this is a different beast entirely. As long as Ireland's Liam Neeson is getting a bit long in the tooth for the B+ and lower action movies that have been his bread and butter for quite a few years now, at least we have the rough and ready and generally amiable Scottish actor Gerard Butler of 300, Greenland, and the Fallen series. London Has Fallen, Olympus Has Fallen, Angel Has Fallen. And now Butler is starring in Plane, which, if true to Butler's filmography, might be fallen at some point in the movie. I'm just saying the plane may go down. Anyway, it's one of those contrived thrillers that generally get dumped in the post-winter holiday dead zone that I have spoken of before. If a movie is released in January, it's either something studios don't think will do very well at more competitive times in the year, or it's part of the post-holiday free-for-all with foreign and indie awards season fodder opening wide. All that aside, get ready. Plane is not terrible. In fact, it was pretty darn fun to watch.
Wow. I did not expect this review.
It has an adherence to formula. There are those contrivances. And then you got the remarkable durability of Butler's character. You know how the heroes in these things get punched and kicked and shot at, and they keep plowing forward. So, that's the situation here. He plays a veteran pilot and widowed single dad who wants to spend New Year's Eve with his daughter on a tropical island. That sounds a little hinky, but he has to pilot one last flight from Singapore to Tokyo before he can party. Did I mention that the flight is a go despite threatening storms developing on the route? And did I mention that an armed marshal on the flight with a prisoner is escorting this escaped and recaptured felon back to the Who's Gal, the Pokey, the Gray Bar Hotel. It's what could possibly go wrong squared. Anyway,
wow.
I have no desire.
That's a hell of a flight. That's a hell of a flight that people end up on. That particular flight.
Exactly. Yeah. I have no desire to spoil let's call them the populist pleasures of the movie, other than to say that it more than meets my low expectations, while occasionally going to surprising and sometimes ludicrous, but generally entertaining places. Plane was tightly directed with a kind of offhand swagger by Jean-Francois Richet, and everybody in the supporting cast pulls their weight, especially Mike Coulter, a heroic star of the TV shows Luke Cage and Evil, here playing the prisoner, and most importantly, Butler, who comes off as the ideal guy you'd want to join for a beer at the sports bar, is solid as a rock throughout. It's plain fun. You know what I mean? Anyway, it's in theaters. Shockingly, I enjoyed my time on the plane.
That is shocking. I did not. I thought that you were going to eviscerate this film, but you did not. I will mention, because it was asked, you mentioned Otto at the beginning. Now it's in wide release. Michael reviewed it last week or a couple of weeks ago. Just a quick summary, because Michael always thinks I never listen to what he says. But as I recall, you liked this original Swedish movie. You were not crazy about this Tom Hanks film.
It seemed like a needless remake, except people don't want to read subtitles. The original movie is something worth seeking out. A Man Called Otto, if you haven't seen the original movie, it's not bad. And Tom Hanks is kind of good playing up against type as a grumpy bastard who hates all of his neighbors. But, A Man Called Ove is so wonderful. The original is something worth digging up and watching.
Okay. What's next, Michael?
Well, you know what? We don't have any other major new releases this weekend. And I thought I would kind of go back and cover a couple things, 2-3 things that I thought were really terrific that I didn't ever cover here on the Mark Thompson Show over the past number of months. I finally caught up to a movie that is showing up on quite a few best of 2022 lists. And now that I've seen, here comes the title, Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, I understand the praise. Marcel the Shell with Shoes On is being touted as an animated movie, and it is in large part, but it's animated characters, Marcel, a cute little talking snail, and his fellow shelled brethren, seamlessly move around in the real world of documentary filmmaker Dean, who is renting the LA bed and breakfast where man meets shell. But circumstances have separated Marcel and his beloved grandmother, Snail Connie, from the rest of their family, and Marcel isn't shy about telling their new human friend, Dean, about the plight. So the amazed Dean, who, again, is a documentary filmmaker, proceeds to shoot a film with Marcel and Connie, these little talking snails, then posts the short online, generating a groundswell of fans for Marcel, and even getting the attention of a legendary TV news program. So this gentle and inventive movie, directed and co-written by Dean Fleischer Camp, who also plays Dean the documentarian, has a lot to say about love, loss, grief, and wonder. And Marcel, who is delicately and adorably voiced by ex-SNL cast member Jenny Slate, gives it a soulful center. Honor should also go out to the other significant voice actor in the movie, the always exquisite Isabella Rossellini. She gives Grandma Connie such an aura of warmth and good sense that it's evident why Marcel treasures her. Marcel the Shell with Shoes On is a special movie for all ages, and it's streaming on various platforms where movies can be found.
Wow, look at you. That's great. And that's stop motion, is that?
The animated elements are stop motion, but they're seamlessly integrated into the live action footage, which features the director, co-author of the screenplay, playing the documentarian. And there's a cameo by a pretty famous American newscaster and presenter as well. I don't want to get into that, but it's very, very sweet. We don't have a lot of time on the Mark Thompson Show to cover everything that I see and want to extol. And I wanted to go back a number of months to a movie called The Sea Beast. As long as we were talking about the animated joys of Marcel, I was really pleased to see The Sea Beast, which is available on Netflix. And it wasn't beastly at all. Surprisingly heartfelt, beautifully rendered seafaring adventure that children should love and us olds will enjoy for its visual splendor and its implied plea for tolerance and compromise, which is, of course, a great lesson for the kids to learn. So here's the setting. During a 16th century looking time when massive creatures roamed the ocean and were hunted by independent seafaring men and women on sailing ships, a plucky young orphan decides, yo ho ho, it's a sailor's life for her. So the girl, Maisie, stows away on a fabled ship captained by a man seeking vengeance on the most feared giant beastie in this war between humans and seagoing leviathans. I know, it's like his dick is a little Moby. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to make it a little off color there. I apologize. Captain Crow and his crew are committed to defending their foppish king and smug queen and home country, although a movement is afoot to decommission the independent hunters and empower the Royal Navy to destroy all monsters instead. Captain Crow's number 2 is a square-jawed, good-natured swashbuckler named Jacob, and he is in line to take over the ship after the captain kills the sea beast of the title and proves to the royals that the hunters are still needed as the conflict wears on. Yeah, there are shades of Robert Louis Stevenson, Herman Melville, of course, and How to Train Your Dragon, but so be it. The Sea Beast is gorgeous to look at with memorable and appealing character designs, even if the beast recalls a certain trainable dragon. There's fluid movement, killer action, an extremely realistic, meticulously detailed computer animated environment, and the voice work, including Carl Urban as Jacob, Jared Harris as Captain Crow, Zaris Angel Hator as Maisie. It's shipshape. With the Sea Beast, director-screenwriter Chris Williams, whose previous directorial effort was the totally cool Big Hero 6 for Disney, confirms that he knows how to make a truly sea-worthy family entertainment. And yes, that's spelled S-E-E. The Sea Beast is on Netflix. I was enchanted. It's in my top 5 animated films of the year, and it just doesn't get enough love.
Wow. I'm so really 2 of them, Marcel the Shell with Shoes On and the Sea Beast, are both films that I'm glad you doubled back for them. And they're both, I think, watchable on Netflix. Is that what you said?
No, one is on, Marcel is on a variety of different video on demand platforms and streaming platforms. And the Sea Beast is on Netflix. And you really can't go wrong with either of them. It's funny, just as a kind of postscript to discussing animated films we missed, there's a movie called Apollo 10.5, A Space-Age Childhood, done by the great director Richard Linklater, the guy who did Boyhood and Dazed and Confused. And it's all about a kid growing up in Houston, Texas in the 60s, whose dad works at NASA. And it basically looks at the 60s in that era and the space race from the point of view of this kid. And it's partly it's a coming of age movie, it's social commentary, and it is a wonderful look at the era, again, through a young person's eyes. And I know it's probably largely biographical for Richard Linklater, and it's so creatively animated. And it also is available, if I'm not mistaken, on Netflix. I know you can find it out there. High marks to Apollo 10.5, A Space-Age Childhood. Very interesting and creative with a little of that motion capture or rotoscoping, the way Linklater did other movies in his canon in the past. Terrific movie. So it's 3 good animated films.
That's really terrific. Thank you, Michael Snyder. I will mention that the Culture Blaster doesn't typically, I don't think, in my recollection, review award shows. So a couple people asked, what did he think of the Golden Globes? I mean, you might have thoughts about, what films were worthy of awards or what films, fall into certain categories as being better than others. But I think the idea, you don't watch the award shows, I presume. They're just, they're interminable.
I grudgingly take a look here and there. I always try to watch the monologues, and I do pay attention to who wins, even though I think award shows in the arts are bunk and hokum.
Of course they are.
And I did see the two guys from Yellowstone come out and twice mispronounce the name of one of the nominees. And I found that Amanda Seyfried. Let's hear it for Amanda Seyfried. Did they not give them a pronunciation guide to say Seyfried? Seyfried. Come on, everybody.
Well, here's the reason that's particularly funny to me, as you sort of have implied. You know what you're there to do. You know the people in the category. You know the nominees. You have the names days ahead of time. Just get clear on how to say it. How lazy and self-indulgent are you to show up and not even bother to ask or get down the pronunciation of one of the nominees that you're there to announce? It's absurd.
It's funny, and on the flip side of the coin, the noted San Francisco, now Palm Springs entrepreneur Mark Eustace posted something on Facebook. Was it like, these people aren't drunk enough? Where was the old drunken revel that was the Golden Globes? And I thought to myself, come on, that Jennifer Coolidge had a flask on her. She had one in her back pocket or her purse.
Look. My problem with the Golden Globes was the length of time that the presenters and particularly the winners took. The presenters, you can kind of, as a producer, you understand they're going to take this much time. This is their bit, whatever it is. But I think there comes a point when you win that there's a selfishness associated with going on 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes in some case. I mean, it just is, and it's tough to be a viewer. I don't know. I wasn't a fan, but look, I like the reality of award shows because sometimes you see people in these authentic ways and they do things that are authentic. I guess the extreme awful example is Chris Rock and what happened to him from Will Smith. But short of that, there's still a lot of other authentic moments. But in general, it's absurd. Of course, Michael's right. You cannot compare art. You cannot compare these. The only way to compare would be the same script, same film, same actors directed by a different person. If you want to pick best director, same cast, same film produced by a different producer. You get my point. It's just apples and oranges.
Yeah, it's always been a sticking point for me. I don't know. I'm not a big fan. You know what? Before we go out, we didn't have time to talk about it, and you may or may not have watched Slow Horses Series 2, but I do want to say on Apple TV, Slow Horses has been one of the great joys of my television viewing, one of the best things on TV right now. These are 6-episode seasons, and they star Gary Oldman at the peak of his powers as an uncouth UK spy master named Jackson Lamb, who has made his share of missteps and is so reviled by his bosses that he's banished from MI5 headquarters in London to a rundown annex where he presides over a motley crew of agents, most of whom have been demoted for their own screw-ups. I really love this show. And of course, even though they've been put under the gun, they may be MI5's best hope in a crisis. These shows, by the way, are adapted from a series of incredibly entertaining novels by British author Mick Herron. And you've got young Swain Jack Loudon as the second lead, one of Lamb's agents, and the elegant Kristen Scott Thomas as a conniving MI5 director, determined to keep Lamb and his crew out of her way. I love Slow Horses. A third season is being shot and will drop hopefully later this year. If you have Apple TV, I highly recommend Slow Horses.
Yeah, I thought it was very good, the episodes I've seen. You recommended a film that I will give the Golden Globes credit for reminding me I need to watch, and that's RRR. It's mentioned in the chat here by a couple of people. So thank you, Michael Snyder, for that. We are out of time. We are now running into Golden Globe overages. That kind of.
I want to thank my parents. I want to thank Mark. Never mind.
Michael, bye-bye.
See you, buddy.
Thank you very much. He comes and goes on a rainbow, but the rainbow has the Friday off. So he is Michael Snyder, everybody. Yes, the Culture Blaster. Find him across social media at Culture Blaster, and you can find him in the Marina Times as well.